Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am the Inconsequential Runner, and we have Coach Mark with us. Coach Mark, hello.
Hello, Darcy. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. And for those joining the channel for the first time, as a quick overview, we have Coach Mark as our resident expert. We ask him one question, so only one question per video, and we knock it out in a short space of time. So you get the information that you want to get really fast, really rich. Coach Mark, just before we start, we are going to talk about gels today, why they're so important, and what we might consider as alternatives. But just before we get into that, one of the previous videos we did, in fact, I think it'll be the video previous to this one, having just done it, you talked about wall sits and
Oh,
do a
yeah.
wall sit for 3 minutes. Now, I'm going to let you know I couldn't do it in the video. I was dying to do it while you were talking about it and how
Uh,
important a wall sit is. So, those of you that haven't seen the video, go and have a look. It's only one or two videos old, but I did it in between for 3 minutes. And I have to say, my legs were shaking after a minute and a half. That last minute and a half was pretty painful. And quick tip to anyone who's going to try it: make sure if you're doing your wall sit for the first time that the wall is flat all the way down to the carpet. Like, don't do your wall sit above a power socket or something like that, because when the 3 minutes is up or when you're about to give up, all you're going to do is slide down the wall. So make sure you have a nice straight exit plan. Okay, that's all I'll say. But Coach Mark, thank you for the tips on the wall sits. I can see how they
sure.
work so well. In fact, I'm going to make a note and I'll do another one for 3 minutes after this. But high level, you said have your knees at 90 degrees, your hips at 90 degrees,
Yep.
arms folded. And there was another tip you offered me about the head.
Yep.
Where do we put our
Head
head,
head
Coach
back
Mark?
on the head back against the wall. Yeah.
Head back
What's
against the
that?
wall.
Sorry, Darcy. Head back against the wall. Yeah. You
Okay.
want totally back and head touching the wall. So you're not bending forward at the hips, resting your hands on your thighs.
Okay.
So you're not doing that.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. That's proper form
And
too.
yeah, and a big cushion on the floor is quite useful as well for when you
There you
do the
go.
slow slide at the end of the three.
There you go. The listen for beginners. Look, it
Yeah.
was such a power packed exercise in terms of 3 minutes or as long as you can go for. But gosh, yeah, it felt like the legs did a lot of work. And when I say the legs, all of the legs, and I could certainly feel that width across my knee, or all the parts of the quadricep, all working in that. So I can see why it's the balancing conditioning exercise you referred to it as in that previous video. So thanks a lot. Okay, gels. Um, so yeah, Coach Mark, tell us why gels are so good, what's in them that makes them good. And for those of us, and we'll leave this to the second part, we'll come back to this if you like, but those of us that are thinking, well, what are the alternatives to gels? What sort of things might we use, or considerations in terms of deciding what other things we might want to use, because gels can get a little bit mundane if you're burning through too many of them, and they can get expensive. But let's talk about the importance of gels first. Coach Mark, why are gels so good, or what makes a good gel?
Well, so when we're exercising, we're talking here about well, running, obviously, which is our thing. When you're running for more than an hour, um, not really needed less than an hour. It's important that we have sufficient water that we replace. We also want to replace carbohydrates, and we want to replace salt. So they're the three things really that we lose um, from sweating effectively. Sweating and obviously burning carbs
Right.
for when we exercise. And if we don't replace those, then our performance is going to suffer. Um, so you can replace that in a number of ways, but where a gel is very useful is it's portable. So you need a certain amount of fluid. So you could carry around with you water bottles, and that's fine. Um, with all with a sports drink in, with all the right formula of carbs and salt in it, or sodium. Um, but then that's a lot of weight that you have to carry. So that's really the advantage of a gel. Uh, you've got the formula in there, and you've got to make sure that you take enough water with it. Otherwise, it's like taking a strong cordial, and you'll end up with gut problems
Right,
during
right.
it. So that's the main problem there. Um, and also you so say you're in an event, for example, rather than taking the drink that's on offer, which is made up to some formula that you don't really know, you can be more in control of your fuel and fluid intake by taking something that you know you can stand because you've tried it in training, hopefully, and you are taking the amount of water that you know you can handle with it as well.
Right, perfect.
So that's another advantage there. Some gels also have caffeine in them as well, which the idea of that is it speeds up the absorption of the carbs.
Oh,
So that's why some of them have caffeine, but some people don't like caffeine when they exercise, so they don't have that. But that's why you'll often see caffeine added to a gel.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's to
yeah,
help the absorption of the carbs. That's interesting.
yeah. It speeds up your metabolism, so it speeds it all up.
Right. Ah, yes, of course, of course.
Yeah,
Look, that's really interesting because I think for most of us, we think carbs, we think water, but the sodium,
yeah.
the salt side of things,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, that's a really good reminder. So
Because
when we've
sodium also it actually enhances the absorption of glucose, so carbs and water from the gut. So it actually also helps the whole system as well as the obvious things like um, preventing cramping.
Yep.
It also you don't lose as much fluid as well when you have salt, so you don't pee as much. So it's not gonna all go out the other end if you're in a very long event.
Okay. Oh, that's
So it's
really
very
interesting.
important.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can see how
yeah,
all those components all work together then.
yeah,
Okay. So then okay, if you're so I used to, oh gosh, when I did a lot of endurance cycling, and when I say endurance, it might be, your bunch ride, which is about 120K, and most top level races, day races, are at
yeah,
least that sort of distance and all of that. And what I used to carry around was water bottles, of course, and
yeah,
and dates and apricots. And I'm just wondering then how much sodium is in dates and apricots. Um,
yeah. But
so your
nothing
advice
really,
is
or
whatever
not
you're
much.
taking, make sure it's got that sodium quotient or component to it.
Yeah. So you can get around that by having dates, apricots, etc., but also having salt tablets with you.
What's a salt tablet? Like, do you just buy them from
Yeah,
the
so you, you,
chemist and
you can
little
buy
tablets of
these. So
salt? Or
it's just literally a little container of salt thing, like a capsule, really.
yeah,
You just swallow with water, and that gives you sufficient sodium.
oh, okay.
So
I did not know about that. Do they
yeah,
taste? Are they quite salty, or is it you swallow
no,
them
you
so
just
you
you
don't?
just down it like you would a paracetamol or something.
Okay, okay.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I when I ran a marathon, I sweat more than your average person. I seem to anyway, so it's always a consideration for me.
Did you know
Replace
that, or
enough
did you get
salt.
feedback?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I put those in just a little plastic sort of Ziploc thing that I just kept in my pocket, and I just pulled one out, at a certain time, and I popped one of those, and that seemed to keep cramp at bay. Yeah,
I imagine it's a very personal thing in terms of how much sodium you take, and for cramp, or even for your digestive tract and how you feel, and all of that. So is it a case of just experiment with it? And if people were to experiment, what would be the baseline? What would they start with? So would it be, you'd be looking to take salt tablets only if the run was probably longer than an hour? And then if that was the case, say it was an hour and a half or 2 hour run, how often would you be taking the salt tablets? Would you then take it at 45 minutes in an hour and a half? Or what would you think
Mm,
would be a starting thing for someone? So you're not giving them advice, because I imagine it would be
yeah,
quite personal in terms of the way
yeah.
their body reacts to salt in terms of its concentration and just how much they're taking on. But what might someone start with if they were thinking, okay, I'm going to take water, dates, or apricots and salt tablets? How might they start?
Um, one salt tablet an hour, I think, is would be enough. It depends, of course, on uh, it depends on how hot it is as well. So
Okay.
that obviously varies. Um, it usually says on the container how many recommended you take anyway. So it's guidelines for it. I'm trying to think the specific now. It's escaped my mind, but it's a problem with a lot of drinks. So you get a lot of sports drinks, for example, and they don't have sodium in them, or cordials people might have, or soft drinks. So they might have the carbs in the water, but they don't have the sodium in them. Um, um, I think it's about 500. I've got it written down here. Um, yeah.
Actually, this
Yeah,
might
here we
be
go. So about 500 milligrams per liter of sodium. So
okay.
if you look at a product, it gives you percentages there,
Yep.
um, and so that gives you a gauge. Uh, so either if you've got a product like a gel will have it. So that'll have the right amount in.
Right.
As well an actual sports, a sports drink that's particularly for endurance event, that should have it in nowadays.
Okay.
They're all up on that. But it's if you're having things like fruit, that type of thing, um, or other sorts of cordials, or flat Coke, that type of stuff, tea. You might want to add something in there. But
Yep.
like anything, you trial it out in your training, so you see what works for you there. But it's always a good idea to have salt tablets anyway, if you're prone to cramping. Um, just keep them handy. So if you do need them, they're actually very fast acting as well.
Okay. Oh, that's really handy
So
to
if you
know.
feel yourself getting into it and to tighten up, you can pop one of those, and it won't do any harm. Uh,
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
I
really.
knew a person who, or Sandy Barwick. The people
Oh,
that
yes.
might remember her. She was a
Yep.
famous, one of
Ultra
New Zealand's
distance.
pioneer ultra runners.
Yep.
Actually, she used to carry around with her, in a pouch at the front. She used to carry a baked potato. So she sort of stuck in her pouch, and I guess she would dip into it and eat it as she went. Maybe she had salt on the potato.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that kept her going. And of
Whatever
course,
works.
with
Yeah.
long events, very long events, uh, the intensity is lower, so you can eat a lot more. You can stomach more. You can have stuff like more fat and protein and all that sort of stuff,
Yep.
because it's not going to upset your stomach as much.
Yep.
I mean, they can give probably heard sort of people eating full pizzas and things like that when
Yep.
they're when they're doing long events. Well, you just see the food tables at the ultra events, and that gives you an idea, doesn't it? The sort of stuff on offer there. Whereas with faster things, gels are
Yeah.
sufficient sports drinks. The other, and as you said, if you're doing something that's going for many hours, I mean, how many gels can you have? Imagine all that
Yeah.
in your stomach.
Yeah.
There's a thing they call flavor fatigue as well. You just get bored with the thing, and part of food and ultras is a bit of excitement to give you a bit of stimulation or something to look forward to.
Yep.
Uh, if you're just popping gels all the time,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, and thank you, Coach Mark. That's why I asked the question about alternatives or what considerations that we need to get around that flavor fatigue. So the
Yeah,
fact that we're considering, of course, got to keep hydrated, got to make sure
Yep.
you're taking in the carbs and the salts, the sodium, and make sure you're doing
Yeah.
that. And that's good to know that there's sodium in gels. So maybe what I can suggest is if there's a particular gel that works for someone, have a look at the nutritional information on the back of the gel, and you can see the breakdown of sodium to carb, and maybe that proportionality works well for you, which is maybe why that particular gel works well for you. So maybe use that also as a bit of a basis in terms of working out that proportionality. So if you're going to start to eat some dates, I'm not suggesting dates, you can work out then how much sodium is in the dates and how much sodium you need then to top up to get that same proportionality that you have in that gel that you like, that works well for you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's so personal. So usually it's sort of dates and apricots and all that. So they were one drawback of those. They're quite high in fibre, which don't work so well for some people. But
Yeah.
again, you trial it and you see what works.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I think I said it when I did my ultra early last year. I was knocking back pretzels, and they work really well for me.
Okay.
And fruit sticks, the sort of thing you put in kids' lunch boxes.
Yeah.
Again, they're portable. They're quite tasty. They didn't upset my stomach. They seemed to give me enough energy.
Yeah.
Interesting thing, actually, talking about this. So you talk about, before exercise, you want to take carbohydrates that are slow release.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so that rule doesn't actually apply while you're actually in the middle of exercising. So before you start, if you've obviously had your breakfast or whatever, and then you have a period of fasting before the event. You don't eat breakfast and then go straight into your event. You have a period of fasting. You don't want to have something sugary just before you start, or you're going to get this adrenaline surge,
Yep.
insulin
Yep.
response, and you're going to burn it all up in the first few minutes, and then you're going to feel terrible.
Yeah.
But that doesn't actually apply if you're mid race or mid event. You can take as sugary a thing as you want, and it will be fine. Yeah, which
Oh,
is which
okay.
is why
Okay.
you see things like gels and
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. I see people
people
offering jet
take
planes,
mollies and
jelly
stuff like that.
beans, and stuff like
You got
that.
it. You
Okay.
got
Oh,
it. Yeah, yeah.
all
You
right.
can just shove it as stoke the fire.
Okay. I've always steered clear from them, but that's good to know. And it's all part of the race fee. So if you paid for them, yeah, maybe hit the jet
Yeah,
planes. I don't like the thought of doing an ultra marathon. My racing, as you know, Coach Mark, anything up to
yeah.
10Ks, anything more than
That's right.
that, you know. But I would consider an ultra marathon because of what I've seen on those food tables. It looks like a
Yeah.
buffet. I'd be the first ultra marathoner to actually get a trespass notice at the first the first buffet table because be eating too much. I love that. Okay, Coach Mark. Hey, that was a really good insight. Thank you. In terms of the dates and apricots, boy, I used to use those. And this again was cycling, as you can probably those of you that cycle with the pockets in the back of your jersey, having dates and apricots in there meant I didn't have a wrapper, I didn't need it, and
Yeah.
if it rained, they stayed together in one piece, like getting a bit of water
Yeah.
on the date and
Yeah.
apricot, no dramas. Where your pretzels, probably not for a cyclist in a long race
No.
with with
No. No.
with a
Exactly.
lot of rain
Exactly. Yeah.
happening,
So
you
you
might
find
get a
out
bit
what works.
messy. Yeah.
Hey,
Um,
another thing actually talk about so um when you're drinking water during an event, and this is an event where again the intensity is reasonably high, so it might be a half marathon or even up to a marathon if you're pushing it along a
yeah.
bit. Um, there's limited benefit of just sipping water, just sipping little bits of water, because we're not very efficient. Our bodies aren't very efficient at digestion and emptying the stomach when you're working at a reasonably high level. And if you can kind of imagine that the stomach, you've got the sort of the stomach, and then there's a little sort of there's a little
Yep.
bit a bowl at the bottom of the
Yep.
stomach, and then the intestine kind of runs off that. Where,
Yep.
yeah. So obviously the water is absolutely no use to you if it's sloshing around in your stomach. It has to actually leave the stomach and go into the rest of your cells and all your muscles and everything. So you need to have enough water in one gulp so that it gets above that little lip, so it actually
Oh, yeah,
empties out
yeah,
of the
yeah,
pipe.
yeah, yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just if you're just sipping, sipping, sipping. This is fine if you're in an ultra or something quite, low intensity, but it's not going to actually empty out of your stomach quick enough.
No,
So it's not
gotcha.
you'll just be
Okay.
sloshing around. Yeah. So that's just something to bear in mind. Which is why in a something like a half marathon or a marathon, you want to take, say a gel and have a decent amount of water, 200 mils, 150 to 200 mils of
Yeah.
water in one go, and
Gosh.
it'll be a lot more beneficial.
Gosh. Gosh. All right. All right. This is another reason why I stay to 10K, because you don't
Yeah,
have to worry about anything
don't need to
really
worry
during that
about it.
10K. Yeah. If you get it right at the start, then whatever
Yeah,
you knock out in the 40 minutes or whatever, you're going to be okay.
yeah,
Coach Mark, that was awesome. That was insightful because, yeah, even if you're training for your 10K, you need this stuff for your training runs when you're knocking out a couple of
sure.
hours on your
Yeah,
legs, and Coach Mark, then last question. So it's just going to summarize, which is, yeah, making sure that you take your hydration, you take your carbs, but also importantly, your salts. So the last thing I was going to ask is if you fuel yourself properly with those three components during the run, do you know if that aids recovery post run? Because do you finish the run in slightly better condition than if you hadn't taken any of those things, beating yourself up for a couple of hours? Does that help recovery if you've taken better nutrition during your run?
oh, without a doubt. Yeah,
Okay.
without a doubt. So yeah, if your muscles have run out of fuel, or if they're dehydrated, the muscles that it's going to take a long time for them to recover, and you're going to
Okay.
have serious soreness. Yeah, so recovery will be way quicker. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. No, that's really helpful. That is super helpful. Thanks again, Coach Mark. For those watching, firstly, thank you for making it all the way to the end. If you want to show some love, if there was some good information in there, and there was, but if it helped you, yeah, look, just click like and then job done. Well, that's you don't need to pay us back in any other way. That would be fantastic. So thank you for all of you that click the like buttons. Of course, if you want to stay in loop with other videos like this, where Coach Mark shares his knowledge, hit subscribe so you're kept in the loop. And if you want to connect with Coach Mark, so he's your coach and puts together your next training program, Coach Mark's details are in the show notes below. So that little drop down box under the video, click on that. And Coach Mark's email address is in there. Coach Mark, thank you so much. Looking forward to catching up with you in the next one.
certainly. Cheers,
See you, mate.
Darcy.
Bye, everybody.